Christmas, its spiritual meaning by Swami Sivananda. Christmas is known to all men the world over historically as the memorable day of the birth of Jesus, the Saviour. Though it is true that Christmas is just celebrated as the day of the advent of Christ into its world, yet it also symbolizes a very deeply significant truth of the spiritual life. Jesus Christ lived and symbolized divine consciousness. He is the very personification of divinity. He was born at a time when ignorance, superstition, greed, hatred, and hypocrisy prevailed upon the land. The rulers were arrogant and unrighteous. The people were avaricious, indolent, and heedless. Purity was forgotten. Morality was neglected. They were intent upon worshipping mammon, that adoring God. There was no idealism. In the midst of these conditions, Christ was born and he worked a transformation in the lives of people. He gave a new and spiritual turn to the lives of man. There came a change upon the land. People started upon a new way of life. Thus, a new era dawned for the world. Those conditions of darkness, impurity, and materialism that prevailed before the coming of Christ signify to you the inner state of seeker's personality before discrimination has dawned upon him and before his spiritual awakening had taken place. In that period, the seeker had no thought of God or higher spiritual life. He is immersed in the pursuit of the material things of this external physical world. He is a slave of his senses. He has no spiritual ideal in life. He is desire-ridden. Arrogance, avarice, and sensuality characterize his personality. He lives a life of lust, greed, anger, deluded attachment, pride, and jealousy. If this state of things must cease and the seeker must enter into a new life of spiritual aspiration, purity, and devotion, then the Christ spirit must take its birth within his heart. This is the real Christmas, when the divine element begins to express itself in the heart of the man. From then onward, light begins to shine where darkness was before. Ignorance gives place to the beginning of wisdom. Impurity is replaced by purity. Hatred ceases and love begins to blossom forth. In his innermost core, man is essentially divine. But upon this field of human personality, two forces keep acting. They are the forces of good and evil, of light and darkness. The divine and the undivine both operate in the human consciousness of man. To completely overcome and eradicate the undivine elements and to fully manifest the supreme divine element in all its radiant light and glory is to be achieved only through the living, the Christ life, in the utmost faithful detail. This is spiritual life. This is yoga. This is sadhana, spiritual practice. This is the method of self-realization. This is the great path which leads us to immortality, supreme bliss, and eternal peace. Swami Sivananda.